I've been dying to get this guy on forever since I heard him on with Bob Seska. But Brian Karem is an award-winning reporter in the White House press corps. You've probably heard him irritating the bejesus out of Donald Trump, which makes me love him. Donald Trump hates him so much. It makes me love him with the heat of 1,000 white hot suns. He is the Playboy White House correspondent. Brian Karem joins us now. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you.
It's so exciting to meet you. That you have to be exposed to Donald Trump in person. First of all, makes you a hero.
Well, I had to get a vaccine for it, but I'm all right.
Brian, I don't even know where to start about what you have to endure. These White House, I don't even, what would you call them? Reality shows,
mini
rallies. Yeah.
Yeah, they're mini rallies. They're not really press conferences. He doesn't want to answer any questions. He wants to dance and spin and sing and anger and yell and tweet and, jump up and down and spit nickels if he could.
So we were talking just before they take all of your temperatures before you go in there, and then they all cluster together on stage, right, with no social distancing. He doesn't wear a mask, right?
No. The first of those briefings, they came. I'll never forget that they came in the briefing room, and we're social distancing, and there were 10 people up on stage, and they're telling us we need to practice social distancing, and yet they weren't. They don't practice what they preach. And when I mentioned it to them, I'll never forget the next day, the vice president's press secretary, when Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci tried to social distance, she made them get closer together on stage so they could preach to us about social distancing. It's just
It is insane. Well, God bless you, Brian. You and Yamiche Alcindor and Jim Acosta, but other than that, it drives me insane that people let him tell the same lie. I understand they need access, and that's your job, but why are you one of the only people that asks tough questions? That they let him repeat the same lies over and over again about the United States is testing more than anybody else. And I love this was yours, right? You tweeted at him. I love that you tweet at him too when you're not yelling at him. This is fantastic. He said the only reason the U.S. has reported 1 million cases is that our testing's so much better than any other country. And you just tweeted, explain that to the state of Maryland that had to buy 500,000 tests from South Korea. You cannot lie like this to millions of people when they know they can't get tested. Was that what you yelled at him the other day when he was?
Yes, that's what I yelled at him as he walked off. He had called on me for one question, and I was asking him about taking responsibility for people. There was an uptick in the number of people who were reporting to poison control centers and in emergency rooms because they were drinking bleach, apparently taking his advice. And he wouldn't accept any responsibility for it and didn't know why.
Yeah,
and that was my first question. And then it was I believe it was John Carl and a couple others had asked him some questions about testing, and then he went off about how great our testing is. And look, I just drove across country to put together a documentary, and I talked to people in 15 states, and they can't get tests.
Yeah,
it's hard to get them.
Yeah.
So here in Maryland, the governor had to make a deal with South Korea to get 500,000 tests. So when he tells me what a great job we're doing testing, you have to challenge that because it's a lie. He just lies. Everything he says up there is a lie.
But Brian, for those of you that don't know, Brian Karem is an award-winning journalist, ladies and gentlemen, Emmy-nominated reporter, author of 7 books, including 2 bestsellers, recipient of numerous journalism awards. When a great journalist like you comes up against him, though, I do understand your frustration because you just said it. He just lies. It doesn't matter if it's the best question in the world. I mean, I don't understand why people don't go, do you understand per capita, Mr. President? It doesn't matter that we're doing numerically more tests. We are doing less than 2% of the United States population, right?
Right. And at this rate, it'd take like 5 years to test everybody if we keep up. But even Fauci says we're not getting anywhere near the number of tests that we need. But that lie aside, what's most unnerving about this president is his just inability to grasp reality and his need to be praised. And when people say, look, I'm afraid, I guess I suffer from the fact that I used to be a high school football coach. So I treat him like one of the kids that, used to play for me. I want to ask him to drop and give me 20 push-ups, but he just doesn't understand reality. And that's the biggest challenge. So when people say, look, I'm afraid of pushing back because I might lose access, I go, access to what? Access to more lies?
Thank
There's
you.
absolutely no reason for us not to push back. And you have to realize it's not a level playing field. He is the president of the United States, and that office deserves a little bit of respect. But at the same time, don't disrespect me. I'm tired of being called fake media. I'm tired of being called the enemy of the people. I'm just asking questions that everyone's asking.
Mm-hmm. And
I have the temerity to do it, and I don't care if it angers you. Answer the damn question.
Brian, and you are correct. I always say that I understand that you're in a certain setting and that you need access. I mean, I'm a little potty mouth that works in my basement. You don't have to go, hey, moron, stop lying, right? You can do the Mr. President like you do. You all ask respectfully. He's the one that's insulting and rude and. I think Ted Boutros, you retweeted. He said, history will issue a verdict in favor of the press. And you said, I agree. We have our faults, but despite being hampered by this White House, we keep on. We won't go away. We will not stop. This may be our finest hour. And I agree. If there is to be any objective truth left in the world, Brian, it's because of people like you and your fellow reporters there. I mean, yeah.
I'm not worried about being called rude. I've been called worse by people who love me. So,
I mean, how about yesterday? Were you there yesterday when he literally said, I didn't say 5 million tests. Somebody said 5 million tests. I don't know who said that. And I think a reporter did say, no, you said it yesterday.
Yeah. He has lied to me so many times. I've called him on it too. I've sat there and said, look, why do you continue to lie to us? And that really angers him. And the one day where I thought maybe he might burst a blood vessel was when I said, what do you say to what's your response to Bernie Sanders, who says that you're nothing but an incompetent, compulsive liar? And he went nuts.
Oh boy.
But it's something that you have to ask the man, because millions of people realize he's lying when he says you can get tests, and there are millions of people who cannot. What are we supposed to do? Don't believe reality? Believe what we're being told?
Yeah,
that's garbage.
Yeah. Well, that was one of them. Do you have another favorite highlight? Because I know I don't know. That's how I noticed you. I'm like, oh, Trump hates that guy. Oh, that guy's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the very beginning, I got into it with his press secretaries, and I've always gotten into it with him with him, but he always calls on me. That the night after the midterm elections, we had a briefing, and this is the one where they ended up pulling Jim Acosta's press pass, but he called on me first, and he had made some Oprah Winfrey comment, and I said, I had a question, but what's this with Oprah Winfrey? And he goes, what are you, a comedian? And I felt like saying, what are you, a president? But I did. I kept and I just asked him about going to war with the Democrats, and he said, yeah, that's a war footing. If they come after me, it's a war footing. To me, that was more telling than anything else he's ever told me. That was the one time I really believed him, that he was going to go to war with the Democrats. And of course he did. And they of course impeached him.
Yeah.
And then I guess you can say that, beating him in court was nice. When they took my press pass and then I sued him and got it back. And there's nothing there. I've never thought in my life my name would be on a court pleading that said Brian Karem versus Donald Trump, president. So to win that felt really good.
Well, this is the other fun fact about you. You've been jailed 4 times for refusing to divulge a confidential source, which ultimately went to the Supreme Court. Karem versus Priest is now a textbook case. Sorry? In defending sources. So, this ain't your first time at the rodeo, Brian.
No, this isn't the first time I've been crossways with presidents either. There was George Bush, the first. He and I got into it at a press conference in San Antonio, Texas. It was him and 7 presidents from the Western Hemisphere who got together to tell us that the war on drugs is over and that we'd won it. And somebody forgot to tell the drugs. Yeah. But nonetheless, he did call on me, and then he told me to sit down, and I wouldn't sit down, and I asked him a question, and my question was, look, I've spent the last 4 years covering the DEA. They don't believe a war on drugs can be won. They believe the war on drugs is a joke, and they consider you president's meeting here a joke. What do you tell your frontline defenders on the war on drugs if you want to let them know it's no joke? He wouldn't answer it, and the president of Mexico answered it. So that one was, I got back and everybody said what a good job I had done. And then the next day I was told I was fired for being rude to the president.
Aye.
So from that, I ended up in D.C. covering presidents.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I don't know which lie drives you the craziest. One of them is I inherited a broken test. I mean, why? Did I miss it, Brian? Has no one said you didn't inherit a broken test? There was no coronavirus test because it didn't exist. You're the one that refused the WHO tests, right? You're the one that had the broken test from the CDC. Why do you blame Obama for everything? Like, what? I just feel like
he has to blame somebody for everything. He cannot take responsibility. He will take all authority and no responsibility, and that's frightening to me. And today's column that I have for Playboy that comes out is that in these last two briefings, what I've really seen is a breakdown. Back in November, all right, we haven't heard about his physical, right, in 2 years. He was supposed to have a physical. Back in November, he was rushed to the hospital. We weren't told what it was about. He claimed it was the first part of his physical. He never finished it. So on March 2nd on the South Lawn, I asked him, when are you going to finish that? He said within 90 days. That time is now almost up. By June 1st or 2nd, he should have had that physical. But my challenge is he needs to have a mental evaluation.
Yeah. Because
I've seen him in briefings, and I've seen him up close. He's not a well man.
Thank you.
He needs to have he needs to be physically and mentally evaluated to see if he's fit for office. And more than any other reason, it's because right now we face a pandemic caused by a virus that's very hard on senior citizens with underlying conditions.
Yeah.
And a senior citizen with underlying conditions is supposedly leading the country.
And
we need to know that this guy's healthy.
And has the nuclear
mentally
codes.
and physically.
Brian, I feel like that's the elephant in the room, that we're literally the orange elephant, not the pink one. That is literally like, what is no one noticing that he's obviously either on drugs or in some sort of massive physical mental decline? I mean, we just played a whole montage of him stumbling and mispronouncing and slurring. And I mean, it's.
And I've seen it personally. And I've seen tremors in the hands. I've seen him. Well, like when he was yelling at me 2 weeks ago, calling me a loudmouth and a showboat, and I felt like saying, again, my wife, when she gets mad at me, says far worse. But nonetheless, answer the question. I didn't. But the thing I did notice was that he seemed not only indifferent, but almost like he didn't understand what I was saying.
Yeah.
And that was frightening to me then. And then on Monday, when I asked him about the question I asked him about taking responsibility, I think at that moment he really didn't know why. So I really don't think that was a lie. I think he's got mental,
right? Because he's like, why? I can imagine. I can't imagine why they would drink bleach. Why? Who would say such a thing? Like, he's not. You're right. He's not well. I wish we had.
Yeah.
I wish we had 1,000 Brian Karems in that. Do me a favor. Tell your fellow press corps when and they've done this at times. When he doesn't answer one reporter's question, tell the next reporter to say, I want to know the same answer, right?
There are two things we do wrong in that press room. We don't bring up his health as much as we should, and we don't follow each other up as much as we should.
Back each other up, react to the lies he tells in the moment. Right. Even if you have a question ready, be like Brian Karem, react to the lie he just told and call him on it. And I love you loudmouth showboat. I love you so much, Brian Karem.
Well, I love you too.
You are our spirit animal in those press conferences. Thank you, Brian. We'll talk again, I hope.
Anytime.
All right, there he goes.
Thanks, Brian.
Playboy, White House correspondent. He's fantastic. Wow. Oh.